Limits of the Flesh, Chapter 77, Fantasy Fiction by Azazyel. Grayfia's offer of washing my back. Now that was a loaded offer. But after a moment of thought, I nodded silently and I could see the clear relief coming into her eyes clearly at my acceptance before I looked forward away from her nude form that was barely covered up by the small towel she was using to cover her front. In but a couple of moments, I sighed with comfort as a soft washcloth began washing my back with Grayfia basically massaging my back at the same time. Having you back has done the family a world of good. Grayfia began. I hummed before I wore a wry smile as she continued and clearly outlined their difficulties. Myself and Venelana aren't as welcome as we appear with the loyal Gremory guards that are bound to the bloodline, with Milicas and Rias being the exception, but they are both obviously too young or just not ready to be new head of the household. She whispered too as she moved up to wash my shoulders, and my head lolled about a bit at her moving my form around with her motions. And my presence has stabilized things. I spoke and she squeezed my shoulder in a silent agreement before beginning to wash my back, and I idly noticed how her large breasts would inevitably push up against my back with her motions, but I didn't make note of it. I just enjoyed the service and kinship we shared. Do you already have a plan to deal with Zekrom? She questioned, and I sighed, leaning back a bit to sit straight up, and she sharply inhaled as her breasts became flush against my back, making myself stiffen at how she didn't move back. Ahem. Yes, in fact, you will be a great help. I just need you to maintain skin contact with me while we meet him, as I am going to simply poison him. I said coldly, and she hummed in thought. I didn't know what she thought of my plan, but blasting Zekrom with some power of destruction was unneeded. In the end, I planned to kill the man, and whether it was by magic, blade, or smashing his head in with a draconic gauntlet, it made zero difference. After a moment of silence, Grayfia spoke very quietly. You have a wide back, Jake. It must be nice for Rias and the others to have you holding up the world for them. I paused, and then with an exhale I held one of Grayfia's hands as I turned to the side and made eye contact with her. Grayfia, I do care for you, and the servants won't betray you, and Milicas, as they know you are the Gremory clan until Rias and Milicas come of an age they can and desire to take up those responsibilities. I spoke seriously, and I noticed her bite her lip. She had a small flush enter her cheeks, and then she huffed with a small smile as she retorted indulgently. Oh, look at you, being so manly. You trying to seduce this lonely widow now? She teased, and after literally a split moment of thought, I firmly nodded and stated with zero shame. Yes, you are certainly beautiful and everything a man desires in a wife. A good mother, a caretaker, strong, beautiful, and willing to have fun when things don't require a serious atmosphere. I said, listing her good points, and that small flush became a more ruddy red as she coquettishly pinched my arm with a pout crossing over her face. Jake! Don't tease me like that, she said with clear embarrassment, and for a moment I considered it. I considered making a move, kissing this beautiful maid/MILF, but as her silver eyes met mine, I swiftly realized that wasn't fair. Not now, at least. So I chuckled with a weight of relief entering my chest as I stood up and wrapped a towel around my waist as I spoke up. Thank you for washing my back, Grayfia. And don't worry, you will always be within the family I am building, I said with as much love and care as I truly could. And with that, my bath episode with Grayfia was over. Not with me looting her, as it just wasn't the right time yet, but also I respected her too much to take advantage and pressure her. But that pleasant episode of time had a far more important event following up. As not but a couple of hours later, I was standing in front of what people considered the current strongest devil, Zekrom Bale, with how Seraphol was in hiding and hadn't shown that she had regrown her limbs back with my help. Silently my eyes met his black eyes, and I could feel the simmering killing intent coming off his gaze as we sat a good way away from him in a gazebo outside the Gremory mansion, with a gentle natural wind at my back that went towards him. For a solid couple minutes, we stared at one another as it was beyond clear to the other what was to happen. Our intentions weren't hidden at all. Even Grayfia was tense as she held my hand under the table we were using while sitting across from the very old devil. Why did you decide to meet me when you knew this would come to pass? Zekrom asked before shaking his head and then speaking flatly. Actually, it doesn't matter. Your overconfidence will mean nothing in the future when I become the new Lucifer, and all that you have built will be forgotten. He spoke confidently. In response, I simply raised an eyebrow as I kept up my actions and kept Grayfia's hand firmly within my own so I could control her body and make sure she didn't get hit with the same thing as Zekrom was facing. But in the end, I couldn't help but getting the last word in. The real question is why you dared to meet me at all when you are not only weaker but truly incapable of killing me. See, the human body has a lot of trace chemicals within itself. But normally those chemicals that could become very dangerous if fused would either never meet or didn't have the catalysts like extreme heat or other things needed to make certain chemical agents. But for me, with a literal crucible made out of pure carbon like a diamond in my chest, I was hard at work creating a terrible nerve agent akin to VX gas, but even worse that I rails from my pores and every breath that carried with the wind towards him. Zekrom Bale didn't die a warrior's death. He didn't leap up to his feet in a rage at realizing he was poisoned and try to attack or even escape. No, the odorless, tasteless gas of death I released into the steamy humid day in massive amounts made Zekrom's nerves and muscles lock up and go completely limp so quickly that his mind literally couldn't process the fact. Stand up, Grayfia. He is already gone. I said with a sigh as I stood up with Grayfia's hand in my own as I kept the nerve gas from crippling and killing the woman as Zekrom's whole body violently twitched with his eyes bugging out as his magic tried to flush out the nerve gas from his body. But for whatever reason, magic that forcibly reactivates and heals the nerves wasn't really a thing. As such a thing was considered some of the most torturous experiences possible in terms of pure pain. So Zekrom died in that outdoor chair and I destroyed his body with the power of destruction after enclosing the area with a wall of stone to annihilate as much of the toxic gas as I could. Get the maids to activate the heavy flood spells to wash away the toxic gases in a storm. It's very reactive to water so it will break down quickly. I told Grayfia after we got back inside and she hugged me with a wry expression on her face as she muttered. Thank you, Jake. Go relax with Rias. Or maybe go play with Aquino and her mother if you want to break Shuri in. She joked quietly and I couldn't help but roll my eyes as Aquino's revived mother was certainly a handful.